However, it is Terry's feeling that Torres is the guy he wants, so he will resume this game on the mound as it goes to the 7th inning. Well, it's very rare that we start off a broadcast with the in-game box score, but that would appear appropriate. It's brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. That's what's happened for the Reds so far. Brandon Phillips, when the game began, was 33 years old. Now he's 34 years old. That's how long this game has lasted.
Who's going to be leading off for the Reds?
They're going to have their 7, 8, and 9 hitters coming up. So Ivan DeJesus will be the first batter against Carlos Torres, who was announced in relief of Matt Harvey right before the Rains game.
You know, I think this is a perfect choice for the Mets. 10 games he's started in the last 2 seasons. Okay, this is not a start, but you have to go through the process almost of starting a ball game. So Torres would be more likely to work better under these conditions. And defensively, of course, behind Carlos from yesterday's game to today, Kadire, Lagares, and Granderson in right field. In the infield, Tejada, Flores, Herrera, and Duda, and Milwaukee's still in the game. Of course, behind the plate.
Well, it's been 19 hours and 30 minutes since this game was stopped yesterday. Carlos Torres taking the mound for the 7th inning, with the Mets and Reds tied 1-1. Only the second suspended game for the Mets in about 30 years. They had one 2 years ago against the Braves. That was tied in the 9th, and the Mets ended up losing that game in the 10th the next day, and hoping to fare better here in this short piece of a game. They'll play the conclusion to this game, and then the regularly scheduled game will follow a half hour later. Now, yesterday they had a problem with the bullpen gate being open right before the start of the game. Happened again. The Reds pitchers left the door open. What do they live in a barn?
Come on, guys.
First pitch of the resumption, and Ivan DeJesus fouls it off, and we are back underway. 1:31, so the official rain delay is 19 hours and 31 minutes.
There you go. Very good. You know, the Reds have had 13 different rain delays all season, so they've been that kind of ball club.
They've been beset far more than the Mets have. DeJesus 0 for 2 in this game, and he's gone up there aggressively, fouling off the first 2 pitches from Torres, and it's 0-2. The switch hitting catcher Tucker Barnhart is on deck, and then the pitcher's spot is scheduled. Manny Parra is the pitcher in the game right now for the Reds. They've got a right-hander up in the bullpen, so they have the option of using Parra to bat and leaving him in, or going to the right-hander. And the curveball sits high to DeJesus, 1-2. It's got to be so odd as a player to jump back into the game right in the middle, particularly in the late innings like this, where every play now will be of great importance. Ground ball right at Flores, and he throws low, but handled by Duda for the first down.
Yeah, Gary, I think it's so difficult to, usually you can get yourself kind of walked into the game or striding into the game, but here it's kind of a race to the 9th inning to get your closer in.
So now it's Barnhart who hit the ball that might have had the most impact in this game for the Reds. He blooped one down the right field line in the 5th inning. Curtis Granderson took an odd route to it and then slid under it. The ball hit right on the heel of his glove, and he dropped it for what was scored a double for Barnhart. And I thought it was good to hear Curtis say after the game that he absolutely should have caught it.
Curtis is a stand-up guy. He knows the conditions were tough, but got to make that play.
They'll get another chance against Barnhart. This one falls in for a base hit. And so Barnhart now 2 for 2 with a walk, and the Reds have a 1-out base run.
Well, he gets jammed by this cutter inside, but it's up. And when the ball's up, they can elevate it. And they can elevate it. Sometimes they can drop it in front of your outfielders.
Now Brian Pena will be the pinch hitter, so he's batting for Parra. So Parra out of the game after he retired his only batter in the bottom of the 6th yesterday. Remember, he got Granderson on the fly ball with the bases loaded. Pena caught the first game of the series on Friday night and went 1 for 3. He's a switch hitter. So Barnhart at first with 1 out, with Brandon Phillips waiting on deck. So a big batter here for Torres in a 1-1 game in the 7th. And he busts one inside for ball 1.
You see a lot of cutters and curveballs from Torres. Huge hole between Duda and Dilson Herrera between first and second with all of those cutters.
One to Pena. So Pena batting for Parra. Ryan Matthews is up in the Cincinnati bullpen, former Washington National. Mets have seen plenty of him over the last few years. There's Matthews, who has not yet appeared in this series. So it looks like he'll get the bottom of the seventh. 1-1. Line, base hit into right field. So Barnhart will pull in at second. Pena with a pinch hit single, and now the Reds have two men on, and Brandon Phillips coming up.
Well, you and I have talked about this before. Pena's a good player. He can play a couple different positions up in front of that box to try to catch that cutter early. Good hitting.
Yeah, now Billy Hamilton is going to run for Barnhart at second base. So Brian Price pulling out a very important piece here. He's got the go-ahead run at second. He's already used his backup catcher to pinch hit, so we'll take Barnhart out. Pena will stay in the game to catch. And Hamilton, the Major League's leading base stealer, will run carrying that lead run at second.
Puts a lot of pressure on Torres, Plawecki, and the Mets defense with Hamilton on second base. He can steal at any time.
Hamilton, who's been slumping, didn't start the game yesterday. Marlon Byrd started in center field. First time he'd started there in a couple of years. And so Hamilton available off the bench. Now it's Phillips, and Torres will keep a short halter on Hamilton if he can. Hamilton, 36 stolen bases. He's been caught 6 times. And since his debut, he is the leading base stealer in Major League Baseball. He's had problems getting on first base, but once he's on, he is always a threat. And Phillips takes a cutter for a strike, 0-1.
The only issue you have here, and you got to hold him close, I don't think you have the threat of the double steal with Pena on first base. But if he decides to try to come behind him, Plawecki better options to go to second base.
Just don't throw it into center field.
Yeah.
That'll cost you a run. Phillips 1 for 3 in this game. He drove in the Reds' run with a double against Harvey in the 5th. And Torres is going to do everything he can to keep Hamilton close to second base.
Now, when you're a runner on second, you pay no mind to Herrera or Flores. It's Herrera's keeping you close. You just watch the pitcher. That's all you have to concentrate on.
And Phillips fouls off the fastball, and now it's 0-2. Brandon Phillips, happy birthday. He's 34 years old today. Gets to play a game and a third on his birthday.
Well, Torres really quick pitched Hamilton there. He never really got a lead off second base. So that's what you have to do. Just change it up if you're a pitcher on Hamilton and all that speed.
Joey Votto waiting on deck. Torres ahead on Phillips, 0-2. Hit hard off Torres' glove. Herrera able to get the out at first. If Torres had not deflected that, it probably would have been a double play, because that ball appeared headed straight for Herrera, but Torres deflected it, and the Mets get just the one out.
Well, it's just a reaction play. Remember, though, Herrera, the reason he was going to be there, he was holding Hamilton close. So that's why that ball would have been right at him. But it's just a reaction play. You can't fault that. A nice reaction play by Herrera.
Now, Ray Ramirez, the trainer, is out to look at Torres. That ball hit the end of his glove, so I'm not sure what the concern is here. But Torres is coming out of the game, and apparently not because of injury, but because the Mets want a left-hander to face Joey Votto. So now runners at second and third with 2 outs. So Torres leaves after 2/3 of an inning. That goes as a 1-4-3 put out on Phillips. And the Mets will bring in the left-hander Alex Torres to face Joey Votto with 2 in scoring position. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon, America's largest and most reliable 4G LTE network. Alex Torres brought in to face Joey Votto. Torres, who has struggled against left-hand hitters, might have a little different wrinkle in his arsenal today.
Well, when I noticed when he was warming up, he was trying to throw almost from a three-quarter arm angle, almost sidearm. But that first pitch was almost the same as we've seen him. Right. So might not be comfortable with that motion yet.
Votto's 0 for 3 in this game, 0 for 7 in the series. Second and third and 2 out. Tie game, 7th inning. And Torres misses high with the fastball and falls behind 2-0. He's got first base to work with, and this is really not an ideal matchup from so many standpoints, not the least of which is Torres doesn't really have a clue about the strike zone at times, and Votto's got the best strike zone judgment in the game.
Yes, and he's probably in here just to face Votto. If he doesn't retire and walks him, then Robles will come in to face Frazier.
And Votto sees 3 that are not even close, and now it's 3-0. Hansel Robles on call in the Mets bullpen. Todd Frazier waiting on deck. Still a little mist in the air. We had some misting rain before the game, which is why it didn't start until shortly after 1:30. 3-0 to Votto. And ball 4. So Torres comes in, walks Votto on 4 pitches, and that'll be all the work he does in this game. So he didn't go to the sidearm delivery after warming up with it. And now Terry Collins will bring Hansel Robles into the game to face Todd Frazier with the bases loaded. Ben is brought Verizon, America's largest and most reliable 4G LTE network. Crucial at bat coming here in the 7th. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by the New York Lottery. Hey, you never know. Hansel Robles comes into a big spot. Bases loaded, 2 out.
Hasn't pitched in 5 days. Last time he pitched was in Milwaukee.
Struck out Ryan Braun, walked Carlos Gomez. That was his outing 5 days ago. Here he faces Todd Frazier in his 24 home runs. And he misses badly with the first pitch fastball. 5
straight balls now by Mets pitchers. You can see the day that Frazier's had yesterday and here in this at bat. 18 outs you got from your starting pitcher yesterday. You need 3 pitchers here in this inning to try to get 3 outs.
And Frazier pops one foul. That'll come back out of play. Ball and a strike. Frazier 0 for 3 in this game, 1 for 7 in the series. Mets have done a very good job holding down the big Cincinnati hitters so far, but this is a Reds team that, especially in the top 4 in their batting order, can do a lot of damage in a hurry. And Frazier with the opportunity here, 24 home runs, 52 runs batted in, top 5 in the league in both categories. And he fouls that one away, and now it's 1-2.
Well, Frazier's got sick power, but Robles threw those two fastballs by him. It's the unknown. You know, he hasn't faced Hansel Robles. He had a couple of bats against Carlos Torres. You and I were talking about it. You could have walked Joey Votto had Torres pitch to Frazier.
Well, the walk by Alex Torres to Joey Votto was about the most predictable result in baseball this year. But now Robles ahead on Frazier, 1-2. Hamilton darting down the line from third. Up and away, 97 from Hansel, 2-2.
Hansel's been reluctant when he gets ahead of the batters to bounce that breaking ball. It's a tough time to do it, of course, for the guy on third, but you don't want to throw anything in the strike zone to Frazier with 2 strikes.
Frazier already has 2 grand slams this year. Both have come in tie games. 2-2 from Robles. And he popped one up. Will this stay in play? Plawecki sheds the mask. Side retire. One king-sized out for Hansel Robles in the top of the 7th. Frazier fouls out with the bases loaded. Second time the Reds have left the bases loaded in this game. 7th inning stretch already. It's a 1-1 game. Like I have jet lag. I mean, here it is. It's 1:49 in the afternoon, and we have the 7th inning stretch. It's just discombobulated.
People didn't even know what to do straight away.
Well, actually, they put a public service announcement on the board. Michael Kadire teaching people how to stretch. In-game box score for the Mets brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Curtis Granderson, another home run in the first portion of this game, 5 in his last 7. The former National Ryan Matthews will pitch the 7th.
Well, he was designated for assignment. He was signed by the Angels this winter, and then, DFA'd then, and picked up by the Reds in May.
Ruben Tejada leads off in the home 7th. Tejada way back in the 3rd inning yesterday. There's Brian Pena, who stayed in to catch. Pena hit one off the center field fence on the fly for a double. As far as we have ever seen Ruben hit a ball. That was against Michael Lorenzen, who started this game for Cincinnati. Went 5 2/3, allowed a run on 6 hits. Manny Parra got the one big out in the 6th. And now it's Matthews as the rain starts to fall again. Lucas Duda on deck, and then Michael Cuddyer for the Mets. Matthews immediately behind 2-0. And Tejada bounces one foul. Ruben had an at bat in the first inning with Granderson at second and nobody out. Got the count to 3-1 against Lorenzen, and then pulled the ball to third base.
Well, he was pretty impressive, I thought, Lorenzen yesterday, watching him. 3 good pitches. Pitched tough when the chips were down.
Just his 10th big league start. And Matthews misses inside and falls behind 3-1.
I don't see if it'll work here, but in a Nationals uniform, Matthews always struggled against the Mets. Didn't have a beard then, though.
Now 31 years old. He's had some injury problems the last couple of years. Pitched parts of 4 seasons with Washington. 3-1 to Ruben, and he takes a fastball for a strike. 3-2. Bobby Parnell, next man up in the Mets bullpen. But you'd have to think Robles starts the 8th, no? After the Mets used 3 relievers in that 7th.
And he hasn't pitched in 5 days.
Hit in the air, deep left field, back toward the corner, and Schumacher makes an incredible catch. Skip Schumacher with an outstanding play with the rain falling, looking through the mist and making a great lunging grab to Rob Tejada.
Well, Schumacher is a guy that started in the infield and moved to the outfield, so it's a position that he's gotten better and better every year. And what a play to start off the bottom of the 7th.
Well, considering the conditions, that is a catch the likes of which we just have not seen in the outfield here at Citi Field this year. Lucas Duda takes a strike. Duda's 1 for 3 in this game. He singled to left center his last time up on a changeup against Lorenzen in the 5th. Well, that'll get you your bloods circulating.
Down the left field line. This one's not going to be caught. Headed toward the wall and off the fence on the fly. Duda heads to second. Schumacher's throw to second, right on the money, and Duda is out at second base. Another fabulous play by Schumacher. First the catch, and now the throw, and he guns down Duda trying for a double.
Well, first, good hitting by Duda. And as the ball goes out to Schumacher, he plays it off the wall one hop, or a couple hops, sorry. But what happened as he makes this perfect throw, how did this happen? Well, Lucas Duda between first and second slipped, maybe still a slippery track. That's why he lost his gait there and thrown out at second base.
It is the Skip Schumacher show in the bottom of the 7th at Citi Field.
There's the slip, and a big guy couldn't get it going again.
Now Michael Cuddyer with 2 out and nobody on. Well, the Mets have certainly not been fooled by Ryan Matthews, but Schumacher has saved the Reds' bacon with a great catch on Tejada and a perfect strike to get Duda as he played that ball off the wall.
You know, you say to yourself all the time, why do you a guy like Schumacher on the bench? Well, that's why you have guys like that on the bench, because when you have these suspended games or double headers, you can put a guy in there who knows how to play the game and get himself ready for the game.
Just the 20th game that Schumacher has started this season, and now finishing it strong. Slider misses off the plate. 1-2 to Cuddyer. Each team now with 7 hits in this game. Well, this resumption has gotten off to a rip-roaring start, hasn't it?
Really.
And Cuddyer struck out to end the inning. So Matthews, with a lot of help from his left fielder, gets through the 7th. Schumacher putting on a show. We go to the 8th, tied at 1. To you by your Honda dealer. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer. 2 plays, 1 man. Skip Schumacher.
2 plays of the game made in the first 15 minutes. First off Tejada. What a running grab through the mist and the rain here. And then got this ball off the wall and made a throw. Perfect throw to Phillips at second base to get Duda, who had slipped.
Now Jay Bruce leads off in the 8th inning against Hansel Robles and takes outside. Robles came in with the bases loaded in the 7th, got Todd Frazier on a foul pop-up, now stays on for the 8th against Bruce, who's 1 for 3 in this game. And Robles promptly falls behind 2-0. You know, this game has gotten off to such an interesting, exciting start. Maybe this is a great idea. Maybe we should play 3-inning games.
I see the bosses at SNY wanting to renegotiate, though. That'd be the issue.
But here's my plan. You play 3-inning games, but you play 2 of them every day.
There you go.
Right?
2 for the price of 1.
Exactly. So you now have a 324 game schedule, but you play fewer innings. That'll save all those pitchers who are on innings limits from going over their limits.
How about the record for complete games, though? It'll be all out of whack.
No, it'll probably be about the same with what it was 30 years ago.
That's right.
2-2 to Bruce with Marlon Byrd on deck.
Well, Gary, we talked about in the open, there's such an urgency to be the first one to forge ahead because of the great closers that both of these teams have.
Well, and of course, such different strategies when you come down the stretch of a game like this with your closer. And the Mets, if you're tied in the 9th, they'll go to Familia.
Yeah.
The Reds, though, might hold back Chapman and wait to try and get a lead. 2-2 to Bruce, and he lifts it to left center field. Hit well. Back goes Lagares to the track, near the wall, leaping to make the grab right at the orange line. It was probably not going out of the ballpark, but Lagares timed it perfectly to take it right at the top of the fence to Rob Bruce.
Well, this ball where he plays in Cincinnati is way gone, but it stays with this misty rain in the ballpark. Lagares got back there. Might have been over the wall, Gary. Once he finishes up, that ball would have hit maybe on top of the wall.
On top, and it might have gone over. Yep, you're right. So a tremendous play from Lagares. Well, we're seeing everything in a short period of time, aren't we? I think the 3-inning thing's got some traction. Here's Marlon Byrd, and Marlon pops one up in shallow right. Herrera goes out to call. Called off by Granderson, and there are 2 out.
Matthews and Robles have got some outs in this game, but do they tell anybody after the game?
You know, they talk about the blue pit as looking like a line drive in the box score. At the 0.1 for an out, the innings pitch.
Just an out.
It looks like a strikeout in the box.
That's right.
Or almost like a strikeout. It's like a routine ground ball.
Go.
2 out and nobody on, and now the defensive hero from the last half inning, Skip Schumacher, will take his turn at the plate. 1 for 2 and a walk. Before that game in 2013 that we mentioned against the Braves, the previous suspended game the Mets had, you were involved in back in '86 at Wrigley Field.
Well, in Wrigley Field, of course, only played day games then, so they would suspend games because of darkness, which that one was.
It was 2 years before the lights went in. It was the second game of a doubleheader, and the Mets were ahead 6-4 after 7 when they suspended it, and the Mets held on for a 7-6 win. That was 1986. The next suspended game was until 2013, and now in 2015. A little number. Off the mound comes Robles, and throws it right on target to Duda, and Robles has himself a 1-2-3 top of the 8th. Helped out by Juan Lagares. Right back at the fence. Jay Bruce making a bid for a home run or at least an extra base hit, and Lagares says no. Still 1-1. Is Steven Matz's big league debut. He's cooling his heels in the clubhouse waiting. The game will be on SNY, and the Between Games show will be on SNY as well right after we're done here in Game 1 on Picks. Wilmer Flores leads off the last of the 8th inning against Ryan Matthews, who had an entertaining 7th, faced just 3 batters and somehow survived. 2 great plays by his left fielder Skip Schumacher. Flores, Lagares, and Plawecki for the Mets in the 8th, and Jeurys Familia starting to get ready in the bullpen. Flores 1 for 3 on the day, singled in the 6th inning. And he takes outside ball 1. I said on the day, of course I mean on the day and a half. There's Familia.
You mentioned it, Gary, getting up, pitch the 9th inning. He'd like to do it with a lead.
Sky's brightening just a bit as the misting rain is slowing down. And Matthews misses outside. 2 balls and a strike. Flores with 10 home runs this year, leads the team in RBIs with 33. Matthews with that familiar placement of his glove. And Flores yanks 1 foul.
Boy, I tell you, these teams continue to try to pitch him inside when they get behind. I don't get it. He is so quick inside. Lucky you got away with that one.
Did that ball go in the upper deck down the line? I think it did.
He killed it.
It went in the upper deck. I don't think I've seen one hit there. 2-2 from Matthews, and it's fouled away. Now, during the home run derby a few years ago, we saw Cespedes hitting some fair into the upper deck, but that foul ball went in the upper deck. Look at that.
Wow.
I don't think that's happened in that particular section.
Even Flores was disappointed because he knew he was just a bit quick.
2-2 to Wilmer. And he yanks that one foul, and Tim Tuffle has to do the extra shuffle. They were showing one of those Mets yearbooks during the rain delay yesterday, and featured during one of those Mets yearbooks was a Tuffle shuffle.
And he's teaching the infielders how to keep that in front of them? No, I'm only kidding.
You don't want to knock that ball down. He might be on the DL. Flores has to move his feet. Now it's a full count. Matthews has pitched better for the Reds than he did the last year or 2 for the Nats, but he's a guy who is prone to walk people at times. And he's gone 3-2 on Flores. And Wilmer bounces one on the left side. DeJesus on the backhand, high throw, and he's safe at first. Well, we've mentioned it several times in this series. The Reds are without their star shortstop Zach Cozart, and they have missed him in this series.
And he just, when DeJesus got that baseball, he kind of casually threw that over there. He didn't fire it over there, so he had no room for error. And the ball up, Votto makes the play, but Flores sneaks in there.
Eugenio Suarez played the first game of the series at short and committed an error. This is a base hit for Flores, but still a play that could have been made. So the Mets have their 8th hit, and they have a leadoff base runner for Lagares, and we'll see how they play it with Plawecki on deck and then the pitcher spot. Frazier looking for the bunt, creeping in at third, and they throw to first to see if Lagares would give it away, which he did not.
One caveat I should say in DeJesus' favor, though. With all this speedy dry on this infield, it's been tough for Duda to run, and it looked awkward for DeJesus to field that baseball.
It's even a little harder to see the baseball with the white against the whiter infield. Frazier again creeps in, and Lagares is bunting, and he bunts it foul. The Mets have been a very poor bunting team this year. It's been true of their pitchers, and even more so when they've asked their position players to bunt.
Well, Terry Collins was asked, why he's not putting more hit and runs on. He said they went on the road, they put 7 on, not one guy put the ball in play. How come you're not bunting more? He said we're a bad bunting ball club, and that's been true all season long.
The only position player on the roster right now who has a sacrifice bunt this season is Wilmer Flores, and he has 2. The entire team has 13 sacrifices. There have been 31 against the Mets. Let's see if Lagares is still bunting. Frazier thinks he will be, and he's coming in hard. And Lagares pops it up, and Frazier makes the grab. He took a quick glance to see if Lagares was running, but it was in foul territory, so it didn't matter.
Well, he couldn't do it. You're right, Gary, because the ball was foul. The other thing is that why Lagares is trying to bunt the ball to Frazier makes no sense to me. Just push that ball in between the first baseman and pitcher. Try to get the pitcher to field it. He's going to be hesitant to throw it to second base. No need to be that fine.
So, Flores still at first with one out. Now Kevin Plawecki, who's 0 for 2 and a walk in this game. Pops out of the mid of Pena, but no advance by Flores.
Fastball in, and it just boxed there by Pena. Mets just don't have team speed either.
Flores has not even attempted a stolen base this year. Johnny Manel is out on deck to pinch hit for the pitcher. It's trying to break a 1-1 tie in the 8th. And it's dribbled up the third baseline, but it kicks foul. And Plawecki was running it out. Will come all the way back. Here's Manel. He was called up when Travis d'Arnaud went back on the disabled list. I was in the Mets clubhouse before the game today, and I hadn't noticed this the last couple of days, but there's still a locker with Anthony Recker's nameplate on it.
Really?
You know what Recker did at Vegas last night?
He had a big game offensively, right?
4 for 4, 2 home runs. I think he was trying to send a message.
Hello, guys.
Flores at first and 1 out. Votto plays off the bag, holding the runner.
Matthews loves to put that glove in front of his face as he takes the sign.
Plawecki drills one foul. Nice grab off the tarp carom by the ball boy. One and two to Plawecki. And he golfs one down the right field line. Votto over the shoulder trying for it, and he makes a nice grab. Votto, the former Gold Glover, reeling in that pop-up with the second out.
Well, nice play by Joey. One, to sprint over there and get there in time, and he braced himself up against that padding after he made this fine catch and got the ball back in. I mean, it's not easy on these plays. You're holding the runner on. It's hit straight over your head. You got to sprint out there on a ballpark you don't know a lot about. And it's interesting that if Votto had chosen to throw the ball to first, instead he could have caught Flores napping, because the pitcher Matthews had come in right behind him, and Flores wasn't paying attention.
You know, Votto sometimes makes quick throws, and they can sometimes go awry, and that throw bounced in to the shortstop, De Jesus. There was nobody backing up. If that ball had gotten away, then Flores might have been able to advance.
Watch Flores, okay? The ball's foul. Okay, you're not going to be able to tag up on this play, so just stay on first. Watch him come off and watch the pitcher come behind him. I mean, if he hadn't thrown that, he could have thrown it to first, could have caught him napping.
So Flores still at first with 2 out, and now Johnny Manel to pinch hit. Manel 2 for 20 on the season. And he hits one toward the middle, but that's where De Jesus is playing. Gets the unassisted put out and puts out the Met fire in the 8th. On to the 9th we go. Familia to pitch in a 1-1 game. Dodgers. You can catch all the action right here on New York's home for baseball, Pix 11. That's the Mets and Dodgers next Sunday at 4 on Pix 11. Well, Jeurys Familia coming into a tie game in the 9th inning.
Well, since Monell hit for the pitcher spot, I mean, you might be able to get 2 innings out of Familia, but this is what you do at home. You pitch your closer in a tie game in the 9th.
And then the question is, would you pitch him 2 innings in this game? It might cost you his availability for the second game today.
I think Terry Collins, to me, is managing this game. Win this one, worry about the next one, whatever happens next. He's got a rookie pitcher going.
Yes, he does. First-time starter. In fact, both teams will have rookie pitchers. Josh Smith will start for the Reds. It'll be only his second start, and the first one did not go well. Ivan DeJesus leads off in the top of the 9th. Chris Dominguez is on deck to pinch hit for the pitchers, hitting in the 8-hole. And then Brian Pena.
Got to watch out for the bunt here.
DeJesus 0 for 3 in this game. He was the first batter after the game resumed and grounded out to short. Familia misses high with a slider.
You surprised that more teams haven't tried to bunt on Familia?
Yes.
Trying to be a little more aggressive?
Although I have to say, when Jeurys has had to throw to a base this year, he's been a little more efficient than in the past.
I agree totally.
He certainly worked hard enough on it during spring training. He was out in the backfields day after day after day, working on his throws to first, his throws to second.
I mean him more like that, and also he's just so hard to hit, and it throws a sinking fastball, which is easier to bunt.
He's behind 2-0. And now 3-0. Jeurys picked up saves in back-to-back games Thursday afternoon in Milwaukee, and then in the opening game of this series Friday night, each time with a 1-2-3 ninth. And Wilmer Flores wants some sunglasses, so we'll have a brief delay. The sky has brightened considerably over the last 20 minutes, and so there's a little bit of glare, and Wilmer wants.
Well, it's better than the other way around, being hesitant to ask for them and then losing the ball in the air, in the sky.
It was supposed to get nicer as the day went along, and it's starting to happen now. There's a strike, 3-1. So with the suspension last night, it meant that Familia had a day off, which he might not have had otherwise. 3-1 coming to DeJesus, and he swings over the fastball, 3-2.
Jeurys not used to pitching in a game that starts at 1:30, and he's in there at 2:15.
Yeah, he's more of a 3:45 kind of a guy,
right?
Or a 9:30 pitcher. I guess at one time he was a starting pitcher in the Mets system. 3-2, and just got a piece of it. 98 from Familia, and DeJesus fortunate to stay alive. Much has been made of Max and his debut today, and rightly so. The last of the 5 big pitching prospects, but you know, Familia was in that count too, and Montero and Mejia, and some of them have found places in the bullpen. Past the mound, Flores flashing over. Low throw, but Duda handles it. 1 away.
Nice play by Wilmer to get to that baseball and make that play. Had to go a long way for that. And I like how he's not standing up, kind of just throwing from the side, getting rid of it as quick as he can. And Duda been so good all season long on the. Well, that wasn't really a short hop. He caught it in the air.
That's an important thing for a shortstop to be able to develop, the ability to throw from that low arm angle. So here's Dominguez, who started the first game of the series Friday night, went 1 for 3 and drove in a run with a ground out against Noah Syndergaard. And he takes ball 1 from Familia. Dominguez, who had a cup of coffee with the Giants last year, 28 years old, part-time player with the Reds. And again, Familia falls behind 2-0. He was 3-0 on DeJesus before he worked his way back into the count. Brian Pena, who pinch hit in the 7th, stayed in the game behind the plate. He's batting 9th. Reds 1 run, 7 hits. The Mets 1 run, 8 hits. And again, Familia's behind 3-0. So maybe it is a little early in the day.
Well, I mean, there's a rhythm to baseball, and almost for Familia and other players here, it's almost like they've been defibrillated into this game, you know?
Maybe we need some paddles. 3-1 coming. And there's a strike. 3-1. Matt Harvey went the first 6 before the suspension. The Mets have now used 4 relievers today. Broken back grounder that goes just foul. And it's 3-2. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by your Tri-State BMW Centers. But you're right, Ronnie. This does not feel like the ninth inning.
It feels strange, right?
And there's a certain build-up to the ninth. And 19 hours between pitches took away a little of the build-up. But it's a big game to win for both teams right now. 3-2. Struck him out. Familia comes from 3-0 to strike out Dominguez. 2 men down.
Interesting. That looked more like a four-seamer from Familia. That ball stayed up right at the belt buckle and swung through by Dominguez.
I remember Familia had a little problem with his groin in Atlanta and sat out for almost a week. And since he's come back now, he's faced 8 batters and retired them all.
Good shot on that grip. It was the four-seamer by Familia.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Pena bats for the second time. Single to right as a pinch hitter in the 7th. And he takes a fastball away. Pena now 2 for 4 in this series. And with that, he's got a season average up to 299. Doing most of the catching these days with Devin Mesoraco out for the year. Slap toward the hole, and Pena's got another hit. He'll get his average over 300. And now the lead run aboard with 2 out. They can't run for him because they've already used both of their catchers.
Well, good hitting on the sinker. Just shoots it through that open side on the left. And Schumacher and Pena came to play for the Reds so far.
So now Brandon Phillips, who hit the shot off Torres's glove for a 1-4-3 putout in the 7th. He's driven in the only Reds run in this game, and here he is now on his 34th birthday with a chance to get them a lead in the 9th. And Familia having a lot of trouble with the shoelace.
This is a John Franco, isn't it?
Well, John used to do this on purpose just to delay the game, give himself a chance to think.
Well, he's got the flap across, but now he's got to put the pant leg down on the right leg, doesn't he? To match the left leg, or is he going to go one flap down?
He's a little out of sync.
There we go.
Now all is right with the world and the pants legs. He's got a big assignment here in Phillips with Joey Votto on deck. Pena the runner at first, no threat to go. Duda holding him on. And Phillips hits one softly to third. Tejada charging and throwing and got him. Side retired. Familia does his job in the top of the 9th. Now the Mets will try and walk one off in the bottom of the 9th with Dilson Herrera set to lead off. coverage on SNY begins immediately following this game, whenever it ends. Could be moments from now, or it could be quite a long time from now. We'll find out momentarily. Fans here for the long day of baseball and the concert after they rescheduled the Steve Miller concert for after the game was today. J.J. Hoover is going to pitch the bottom of the ninth for Cincinnati.
This is why it's so hard to judge relievers. Last year in 68 games, Hoover had a high ERA and was 1-10. This year he's been one of the best relievers in 34 games at 5-0 with that sparkling ERA.
And the irony of it is his strikeout rate has gone way down. Last year, 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. This year, 6.5. You just don't see that very often.
But he's throwing strikes this year, which he didn't always last year. He's always a guy that walked a lot of hitters.
Dilson Herrera, Curtis Granderson, Ruben Tejada, if anybody gets on, Lucas Duda for the Mets in the last of the ninth. Mets have had 4 walk-off victories this year. Corners in against Herrera, who takes low and away from Hoover for ball 1. Herrera 0 for 2 in this game, and 2 for his last 23. Each team with a run and 8 hits. And Hoover gets a generous strike, 1-1. J.J. Hoover, 27 years old. Now in his 4th year with the Reds. Granderson, the Mets' hottest hitter on deck. And a breaking ball misses badly, 2-1.
That's what you get from Hoover, is that good straight fastball, but the big hard curveball is his out pitch.
Ryan Matthews gave the Reds 2 scoreless innings after the resumption. And now Hoover gets even on Herrera, 2-2. Well, you have to assume that the Mets would use Familia for a 10th if there is one. There's nobody throwing in the Mets bullpen. Mets would prefer to save him for the 9th inning of game 2. Full count to Herrera.
My feeling is why save him for a place you might not have to use him anyway. So you're in a ball game here. Use your best people.
I'm saying they prefer to get a run.
Oh, there you go.
Right now.
Okay.
And take that choice away. 3-2 coming to Herrera, and Dilson drives one out to left. He did not get it well, and over comes Schumacher to get it. Took a big swing, but hit it right off the end of the bat, and that's the first out.
Hoover's strength against right-handers is he keeps the ball away. That's not a good pitch. Just missed by Herrera. Just a little quick. Boy, he'd love to have that pitch back, I'm sure.
Sure saw it well. Just didn't hit it well. So 1 out now. Granderson, who's already had a home run in this game. An opposite field shot back in the 3rd. Also doubled and walked. Hoover misses down with a curveball for ball 1. Well, Curtis Granderson has now hit the Mets' last 4 home runs. The club record is 5. Nobody's hit more than 5 straight team home runs. The last to do it was Carlos Delgado back in 2007. Well, this was the 3rd inning yesterday. An unusual home run for Curtis.
And that it was the other way. I heard you call, Gary. That's the first time he's done it since 2012, and he was in a Yankee uniform going to left field with a home run.
And he did it the last time in Baltimore, which is, close.
Easier.
Yes. 2-1 to Granderson, and he hit it over the back fence, over the Great Wall of Flushing. You don't see too many lefties hitting it that far to left field here. Over behind, 3-1. And Granderson takes his walk, and now the Mets have the winning run aboard with 1 out. And Ruben Tejada coming up.
We're just talking about that Hoover has not been walking anybody, not striking out a lot of guys, but walks Granderson there. I mean, if you're facing the Mets right now, aren't you? That's your thought. Is Granderson is the hottest hitter in the lineup.
Granderson's now been on base 4 times in this game. Tejada was absolutely robbed of a base hit his last time up. A great diving catch by Schumacher in the 7th. In fact, Rubens hit the ball well this entire game. Lined out to 3rd his previous at bat, hit a double off the center field fence. Granderson at 1st and 1 out, and Hoover finds the outside corner. Lucas Duda, who's had 2 base hits in his last 2 at bats, waiting on deck.
That goes to the backstop, and Granderson will go to second base.
A big wild pitch on a fastball by Hoover, and the Mets have the winning run in scoring position.
Boy, that ball not even close as he hung on to that pitch too long. No play for Pena. Can't put any blame on the catcher when a pitcher was supposed to throw a fastball for a strike.
You're saying there's no play for Mr. Pena?
No.
The Mets in this game are 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They only need 1. 1-1 to Tejada. And Ruben with a check swing foul, 1-2. Tejada had a couple of walk-off hits for the Mets last year. Trying to end this game and send us off to game 2. And he lays off the slider. 2-2.
When you look at the arms in the outfield, Schumacher, we saw earlier in the game, very accurate arm, good arm. Marlon Byrd, remember when he was in the Mets uniform, threw out a lot of base runners. But the best arm in this outfield is Jay Bruce in right field, who has a cannon.
Remember, Bird is playing his first game in center field in 2 years and doesn't quite have the range of a Billy Hamilton on a ball hit to a gap.
See, all the outfielders looking up in the sky because it's gotten really light here.
This is the brightest it's been since this game resumed. 2-2 to Tejada, and Ruben pops one foul, and he'll do it again. Ruben has 4 walk-off RBIs in his career, including a couple last season. Anderson at second and 1 out. And Tejada lays off another slider, and now it's a full count. This is what we used to talk about with Ruben earlier in his career, right? The knack of getting from 0-2 to 3-2. And with Duda on deck, you have to figure he's going to get something to hit here.
Well, he's featured a lot of fastballs in this inning, Hoover. If you're going to see a fastball, it's going to be away unless he makes a mistake. He can shoot it that way.
3-2. And he walked him, and Duda will come up with the winning run at second and 1 out. Second walk in a row for Hoover. Well, Duda had been slumping badly. He struck out and flied out in his first 2 at-bats in this game, which put him 4 for his last 34, but he singled to center in the 5th inning, and then after the delay, he hit one off the wall and left for a base hit in the 7th. And was thrown out trying to stretch it into a double. And the curveball from Hoover sits high for ball 1.
Well, Curtis Granderson on second base will not be able to get as big of a jump as Dyer on deck because De Jesus is right behind him. So he's going to have to stay a little closer.
1-0 to Duda, and Hoover steps off. Lucas had the Mets' last walk-off home run. That was the final weekend of last season when he hit one against Tony Sipp of the Astros to win a ball game. And Pena and Hoover having all sorts of trouble getting together.
And it's not that tough. He only has 2 pitches, fastball or curve.
Couple of walks by Hoover have put 2 men on here in the bottom of the ninth. And Duda pulls one foul. Ahead of that slider from Hoover. 1-1.
Best hit balls by the Mets so far have been foul. Out in front here is Duda.
Otto, the first baseman, playing all the way back on the outfield grass. You see a first baseman doing that very often. And a borderline strike with a fastball, 1-2.
Pena does a good job behind the plate of framing pitches. And you're right, this pitch could have gone either way, but pretty close.
Now it's 1-2 to Lucas. And he lays off the curveball, 2-2.
The Mets have done a pretty good job laying off that curveball from Hoover so far in this inning.
Remember early last year, the Mets won a game from the Reds on a walk-off grand slam by Ike Davis. It came against J.J. Hoover. See if Duda can channel his inner Ike. Taps one on the right side. Phillips will go to first with it. That's the second out, and now the winning run moves to third. So, in an inning where Hoover has already thrown a wild pitch, the Mets have the winning run 90 feet away. And Michael Cuddyer coming up. Let's see whom they'd rather face, Cuddyer or Flores. Although with Hoover having walked 2 already in the inning, you wouldn't think they'd want to load the bases.
I think you have to go after Cuddyer. And they are.
Michael's 1 for 4 in this game, doubled back in the 4th. Granderson at third, Tejada at second, 2 out. And Cuddyer takes a fastball off the plate for ball 1.
I think the umpire Woodring's strike zone has been very tight. Was it tight yesterday, Gary? In spots?
It fluctuated.
Okay.
You had a few people unhappy, both hitters and pitchers. There's a strike. 1-1. Cuddyer hitting just .212 with runners in scoring position this year. 1 hit forgives much. Fouls it off. All fastballs from Hoover, and it's 1-2.
Three fastballs as he go back there again.
Breaking ball popped up. Phillips shading his eyes. Side retired with a little mustard. And we're going to the 10th inning in the suspended game here at Citi Field. Tied at 1. But when it's over, there'll be another game afterwards. Steven Matz makes his major league debut, and you'll see both the post game for this game, the pre-game for the next game, and the game itself all on SNY. I mean, the post game, pre-game is kind of a hybrid.
Prost.
Prost. Or Proust.
There you go.
Depending on your proclivity.
There you go.
Remembrances of things still to come.
That's right.
Joey Votto will lead off the 10th inning against Jeurys Familia, who gave up a base hit in the 9th through 16 pitches, and he'll move on to his second inning. Votto 0 for 3 and a walk in this game. It'll be Votto, Frazier, and Bruce, the heart of the Cincinnati batting order. Nobody scored in this game since the 5th when the Reds tied it on Brandon Phillips' RBI double. We've played 3 innings since the resumption, and the relievers have kept the score tied. In foul ground, Tejada running out of room, and it's in the crowd.
Boy, did you hear Joey Votto scream, "Get out of here," with that ball in the air? You know, take away the power. You know, he's one of the best players in the game. He's had a couple tough seasons with the injuries. Take away the power. He reminds me the most of today's player of Keith Hernandez when I watch him play.
Really?
Yeah. Not the defense, but his ability, knowing the strike zone, hitting the ball the other way.
I would have thought that Keith was a little more aggressive in RBI situations than Votto, who seems more interested in keeping his on-base percentage.
I think Keith would agree with that, absolutely. I honestly just see his ability to hit the ball the other way reminds me of Keith.
Burke Baden-Hop is up in the Reds bullpen. Quick pitch by Familia, misses outside, 2-2. Well, I think both players would be flattered by the comparison. You know, they're best buddies. Remember the game we sent Keith down to the front row?
That's right there.
And we started chatting it up when Joey was in the on-deck circle.
I said to Keith, "What are you doing down there?"
By the way, Keith's got him in gold gloves.
Well, yeah, of course.
11-1.
Got everybody in gold gloves.
I believe he'd be the first to remind us of that.
No, I said no defense.
Okay. Well, that was okay.
Yeah, he's good.
But nobody's Keith. 2-2 from Familia, and he misses high. Full count.
That was a tough pitch to take. That was that slider that doesn't break. And only a guy who knows the strike zone as well as Votto is able to take that pitch. Watch this slider. Almost everyone swings at the slider that backs up. He does not.
3-2 coming. And Votto fouls off the fastball. Oh, this is from the archives. There we go. That was their in-game conversation. Very nice. I love the fact that Keith had his feet up.
How about Keith's hair is grayer then than it is now?
Yeah, well, let's have a little help. This will be the 8th pitch coming from Familia to Votto. And it's outside, ball 4. Votto works out his second walk of the game and his 47th of the season, leading off the 10th inning.
That walk all set up by taking that 2-2 breaking ball, backup breaking ball.
Well, now Frazier, whom the Mets have held in check so far in this series, having a career year, but 0 for 4 in this game and 1 for 8 in the series. And as always, when Todd plays in New York, he's got a big rooting section up from Tom's River. However, he will not have the biggest rooting section today. That will belong to Mr. Matz, who I believe will have all of Stony Brook and Setauket here today. East Setauket as well. And they've already got the Matz jerseys out. How about that? That's some quick work. Frazier swings at the high slider, and it's 1-1. Is that the pitch you were talking about?
That's the pitch. It's almost impossible to lay off of. You see it, you expect it to break. Just ties Frazier up.
Jay Bruce waiting on deck. Votto's got 5 steals, so you have to keep an eye on him. And a beautiful sinker by Familia has him ahead on Frazier, 1-2.
Breaking ball away. Sinker down and in. Good pitching by Familia.
Jay Arias has worked 2 innings on at least one occasion this year. Pops one inside, 2-2. Carlos Torres went 2/3 of an inning after the resumption. Alex Torres faced one batter, and it was Votto, walked him on 4 pitches. Hansel Robles did a very nice job, went an inning and a third, didn't allow a base runner. Got some help from Lagares, robbing Bruce at the top of the fence. And now Familia in his 2nd inning. Zwiecki setting up inside.
Struck him out. 98-mile-an-hour sinker from Familia to get Frazier for the first out.
You can't have both as a hitter and expect to put any wood on it. You can't have 98 plus the great sinking action on that 2-seamer from Familia. Just too tough for hitters.
Is he holding that 2-seamer across the 2 seams as opposed to with the 2 seams?
He's kind of a little bit across, and he's got his fingers apart, which you don't usually see.
Here's Jay Bruce with 1 out and 1 on. And he hits a double play ball if they hurry. Herrera with the turn and fire. The return by Flores not in time. Just not quite hit hard enough to turn the double play against Bruce, who runs pretty well.
You know, the other option for Herrera here is that Votto stopped. If he had charged that more, he might have been able to tag Votto and make him double play that way. Once he went the traditional way, just not hit hard enough.
Back to that grip for Familia.
Yeah, you can see that one is across the seams. Very unusual. Fingers split apart, but still able to get that ball to sink. Helps that you throw 98.
So now 2 out. Bruce at first, and here's Marlon Byrd, who's 1 for 4 in this game. And he goes after that high slider. Right on cue. 0-1. Skip Schumacher, who's had a big hand in the resumption of this game, is on deck. Familia had 31 pitches. His season high is 33. Did that in Arizona a few weeks ago. And Marlins swinging over the sinker, 0-2. Byrd is recently back from a fractured wrist. He was out only about 2 weeks, which seems like a very short period of time for a fractured wrist, but he's been hitting better since he got back.
When you're an older player, you just want to get back out there on that field.
Marlin will turn 38 in August. Such a great job in his 2/3 of a season as a Met. 0-2 coming. Broken back grounder. It's going to be tough for Tejada. The bare hand play. Not in time. And Byrd has himself a broken bat infield hit.
That bat ended up behind shortstop. That's how far the head of that bat traveled. Nice job by Tejada with the bare hand to even make this play close. I thought he had no chance, but a close play at first. Byrd still runs well. Boy, you can see those cleats in the dirt of the infield, spreading a lot of that dirt around.
So now 2 things. One, the Reds get the go-ahead run to second base, but also Familia now will throw more pitches in this outing than he will have in any game this year. Skip Schumacher is the batter, and he takes low for ball 1. Schumacher 1 for 3, a double and a walk in this game, but perhaps more significantly 2 outstanding defensive plays to help keep the Mets off the board in the 7th. Bruce at second, Byrd at first, and 2 out. Unhittable pitch, 1-1.
Well, he's thrown a lot of unhittable pitches this season.
Ivan DeJesus Jr. would be next. We have some actual sun shining on the field now. So it's gone from raining to a little brighter to almost sunny. Two on, 2 out.
Slapped the other way and caught by Tejada. An awkward leap for that ball, but he was able to stay with it and retire Schumacher to end the inning. Well, Schumacher made a great catch on Tejada, and Ruben returns the favor with this strange-looking jump. That worked. Mets come up at the bottom of the 10th, still tied at 1.
He's got hoping for one in his glove.
Yeah, he's got the Rollins with the crisscross webbing. Nice.
Love when kids bring their glove.
How about the eye black with the black glove? That's a nice look.
He's got the Mets logo in the eye black.
Or eye blue. Or
very nice. Burke Badenhop will work the bottom of the 10th for Cincinnati.
For most Mets fans, you remember Badenhop was for many seasons with the Marlins. He used to be a guy that threw three-quarters or submarine, but will occasionally throw the ball over the top now.
He was with the Marlins so long ago. They were the Florida Marlins. Since then, he's been in Tampa Bay, Milwaukee, Boston. 70 games with the Red Sox last year and had a pretty good season. And now pitching for the Reds. Their fifth pitcher of this game, Wilmer Flores, will lead off the bottom of the 10th. Wilmer's had base hits his last two at bats, including an infield hit to deep short in the 8th. That led off the inning, but he never advanced. It's got two men on in the 9th with a couple of walks. Got the winning run to third, but couldn't bring it home. And now Flores takes a strike from Badenhop.
Steven Matz and his fans from Setauket are like, enough already. Wilmer, hit it out of the park. Let's go.
Well, this was one of the fears going into the afternoon with Matz, that here he is about to make his big league debut, and he's cooling his heels in the clubhouse. Got here at 10:30 this morning, and the resumption of this game was supposed to be at 1:10, didn't start till 1:30, and now it's 2:52, and who knows how much longer this game's going to go. And there's some of his family and friends on hand.
How many chicken tenders can you eat before the game? I mean, come on. No, that would be the only issue this morning, is that maybe you could have told Matt, get here like 12:30 after the press is gone, so you're not here too long. But you know what? It's a good thing. He sits here, he gets to know his teammates better. He's watching the entire game, watching the hitters that he might face.
But he's not even allowed in the dugout because technically he's not activated yet. That's it right at the shortstop. Comes up nicely for DeJesus, and Flores retired one away. You know, he'll be activated the second game. You know, it's a quirk in the baseball rules. They have it now that if there's a doubleheader, teams are entitled to bring up a 26th player for the doubleheader.
Yeah.
This is not technically a doubleheader, but for some reason, the rules do allow for a 26th player in the second game of the doubleheader. And Matz will be that 26th guy, so the Mets don't have to send anybody down between games.
Well, I didn't really understand it, but now that we're in the 10th inning, I'm understanding it more.
I guess it makes more sense. So they'll have to make a move after this second game, but not before. There's a call strike to Lagares.
And it was interesting. Dan Warthen, before the game, there was a comment. He said, you know what? He'll be able to cool his heels. It'll make it easier for him. I totally disagree.
Garris hits one out to right center. Bird takes an odd angle on it, but gets there for the second out. Marlins started back as though that ball was going to be deeper and then took a turn. Only high enough that he was able to run under it. 2 out. So now it's Kevin Plawecki with the pitcher spot due up next. The Mets still have Eric Campbell and John Mayberry left on their bench. You know that Familia's not going to go out there for a third inning. He's already thrown more pitches in this game than he has in any this season. Plawecki 0 for 3. And he pulls one past the third baseman Frazier. Base hit for Plawecki. So the Mets have a 2-out base runner in the bottom of the 10th. And who's it going to be? It's going to be John Mayberry to come up and pinch hit.
Well, I think the aggressive play here by Plawecki, jumping all over this first pitch fastball, up in the strike zone, hard enough to get by Frazier.
So Mayberry, who has played very little over the last week or so, will get the pinch hitting assignment. Terry Collins, in fact, said he'd like to get Mayberry in the lineup the second game of the doubleheader today.
It helps if you win this game.
Yeah. So Mayberry, who's already had a walk-off hit, remember that 14-inning game against the Cardinals, he had an infield hit to win the game. And he'll get the crack at it here against Badenhop.
Look at how deep that outfield is. No doubles, Gary. You've seen that come in the favor of the Mets before. Lucas Duda hit.
The one that Kudair scored on. Knee high strike to Mayberry. Mayberry 1 for 3 in his career against Badenhop. Plawecki, not much speed at first with 2 out. And quickly Badenhop ahead 0-2. Well, a pinch hitting assignment for Mayberry. He's got 7 pinch hit home runs in his career, but here he's got to fight out of a 2-strike hole.
Well, Heisey, who did most of that damage as a Red.
Gomes did some of his as a Red too.
Right.
It's lace foul. If Mayberry can keep the inning going, Dilson Herrera would be next. Each team now with a run on 9 hits. So both teams have had their chances. The Mets have now left 12 runners on base in this game. Logan Verrett is up in the bullpen for the Mets. Looks like he'll get the 11th if the Mets can't win it here. Oh-2 from Badenhop, and that's away. Mayberry has 6 walk-off hits in his career, including 1 walk-off home run. One-two coming. Check swing. Did he go? They check it first. No swing. And Hickox with the call. 2-2.
It's interesting. Pena jumped up and asked for the call. Ball's outside. Good job by Woodring, the home plate umpire, but he jumped up and asked for the call from first base umpire, who said no.
They're flying low today. Mayberry chases, strike 3, and we go to the 11th. A hit and 1 left. Logan Verrett will be on for the 11th. Game tied at 1. and it will be over on SNY. So, how many snacks, how many coffees, what's Steven Matz doing right now?
Well, no coffees. He's too young to want to have any coffee before the game. I think, I wouldn't have any coffees at his age before the game, but I think what you're trying to do is get up. You're trying to walk around a lot. You're going to have your heart is going to be beaten. You've seen the shots we've shown of his family a couple of times. You've seen that. But you know what? All year he's been AAA. He's heard a lot of noise about when he's supposed to be brought up, if he's going to be brought up, and all he did is keep chugging along. And I think that's going to serve him well in the second game.
Well, the Mets fans are ready. They'd like to have the Mets pick up a win before Steven takes the mound for game number 2. We go to the 11th inning. Ivan DeJesus will lead off against the new Met pitcher Logan Verrett.
Well, Logan Verrett has had, this is his 4th appearance. He's had 3 really, 2 really good ones. One kind of iffy one, but they didn't hit the ball very hard off him. Outstanding slider, good sinking fastball.
Last outing was in Milwaukee on Wednesday, and he was tremendous. 2 hitless innings. Verrett, who's been a starter most of his career, working out of the bullpen. DeJesus takes a fastball for a strike, and it's 0-2. The pitcher spot is due up next for the Reds. Their last man on the bench is Eugenio Suarez, but that is Mike Leake out on deck, a good hitting pitcher. It's a pinch hit, so they're leaving Suarez in reserve. 3 pitches, and DeJesus is made quick work of. Good start for Verrett, 1 out.
What's that good slider we've talked about? It's one of his best weapons, especially against a right-handed hitter. You said Leake, he's one of the best hitting pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, he can hit it out of the ballpark. He's got speed.
He's already been used a couple of times as a pinch hitter this year, 0 for 2. 5 hits, 1 home run this season for Leake. Who, if memory serves, was Ike Davis's teammate at Arizona State, and Ike threw harder than Leake.
That's right.
Poked down to first, and Duda plays the spinner and flips it over to Verrett, and quickly there are 2 out. So Leake now 0 for 3 as a pinch hitter. That's interesting, right? That you'd hold your last reserve here in the 11th inning rather than use Suarez.
Well, I think if there had been someone on base, I think Suarez would have definitely been up, but because no one was on base, I think that's why he held him back. And the other thing is that, well, it wouldn't matter if he's you'd have to put him in the field because maybe he might be their backup catcher, you know.
Meanwhile, Aroldis Chapman is up in the Reds bullpen. Doesn't look like he's throwing very hard. So I would assume that Brian Price is going to hold him for a save chance. But that might be hard to come by now with 2 out and nobody on.
I said it wrong, not backup catcher. You know what I'm talking about. The guy who, emergency catcher.
Brian Pena's 2 for 2. Came off the bench in the 7th. He's single to right and single to left. And Verrett falls behind 2-0. By the way, we just looked back at Mike Leake's career pinch hitting numbers. He's now 0 for 12. And there's Chapman. They've got a right-hander up as well alongside him. And Chapman's doing that languid throwing that you do when you're sort of warming up but not really.
Well, what you're doing is in case someone pops one out of the ballpark, you got to be able to get loose quickly. So
Carlos Contreras is the right-hander. And now it's 3-1 to Pena. Driven to center field, but right at Lagares, and that retires the side. 1-2-3 inning for Logan Verrett. That's come up in the bottom of the 11th inning. Still tied at 1. And yesterday, let's see who's been used. There's him and him. I think we missed one. Dominguez has also been used for the Reds. They only have Suarez left. The Mets only have Campbell left on the bench. I guess our pen ran out of ink.
It almost looks like the people who like to do the New York Times crossword puzzle. You know how they cross out the clues as they go?
People do that?
Some people do that. I don't.
I don't understand the point of that. Carlos Contreras will work in the bottom of the 11th.
Well, Badenhop went just an inning. Contreras now. See his numbers. This is his second stint with the Reds this season.
24-year-old Dominican right-hander. He's built like Johnny Cueto, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Small of stature, just 5'10", but solidly built. There's Johnny, who pitched the opening game of the series Friday night, had a little spate of wildness that cost him in a 2-1 Mets win. 2-1. Let's see. Well, this one could end 2-1. Mets played a lot of games like this.
2-1.
Last game in Milwaukee, they won 2-0. They won Friday night 2-1, and hoping to win this one by a similar score. Dilson Herrera will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the 11th. Herrera 0 for 3 and a walk today. And the corners are in. Votto playing off the line, but in on the grass at first base. Keith was making the comment yesterday about Votto that he plays further off the line than any first baseman around these days.
I agree. Especially being in, playing that far over. But he's trying to eat up that hole, and Phillips is trying to get everything up the middle.
By the way, could you explain something to me?
Yeah.
Keith started this game yesterday. Now, you have a very limited history as a relief pitcher. How is it that you're here for the conclusion of this game?
I will just say the lobbying started yesterday at some point.
2-1 to Herrera.
He's got that long drive. You know, they like brunch out there out east, you know?
I mean, the only time I can remember you relieving was that 19-inning game in Atlanta.
Oh, I relieved that game. I remember I relieved the game in Los Angeles where I gave the walk-off home run before it was even called a walk-off home run.
That's because you were better at 4 in the morning.
That's right.
By the way, the 30th anniversary of that game is coming up soon.
I know a lot of people want to talk to me about it. I don't know what else to say because I've been talking about it for a long time.
30 years, in fact. I know Keith wants to talk about it. He hit for the cycle.
That's right. 10 at-bats.
Better late than never. 2-2 to Herrera. In the air, foul. Well, it's clear that a lot of people are trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark and end this game.
Well, that's what happens with these games is that everyone wants to be a hero and, you know, pop it out of the park and walk off and get doused with water and jump around. That's all good if you can do it.
Popped up into shallow center, and Phillips turned his back and now finds it. Phillips lost that ball for a moment, it appeared. Unless he was just messing around. You never know with Brandon.
I think he's just messing around. Like last night, you guys had a play where Votto called for it, and Phillips made the play. The night before, Cueto called for one, and Phillips made the play. I think that's what they're starting to do over there, is that they're making it kind of funny that they know Phillips is always going to make the play.
This is the 896th game that Votto and Phillips have played together. Second active only to Howard and Utley. Granderson takes ball one. Granderson's been on base 4 times in this game, a double, a home run for the Mets' only run in the third, and since then he's walked twice. By far the Mets' hottest hitter right now, trying to make something happen against Carlos Contreras. And he takes it down 2-0. By the way, the official record says you had 18 relief appearances, so today it's 19.
19. Relieving Keith. How did he do?
Well, he said he could fire the fastball in high school.
No, he had a good curve. Good curveball if you play catch with him.
Three and out to Granderson. Contreras acting like he wants no part of him. And he pulls the 3-0 pitch
right underneath Votto and down the line. Granderson turns first. He's going to go to second. Bruce to the corner to get it. And Granderson will stop at second base. He picked up Tim Tuffle as he got to second to see whether he might have a chance to go for third with one out, but thought better of it.
Well, it's the right call right here. Ground ball just underneath. We're talking about how far Votto plays off the line. Closer to the line, he doesn't make the play. And it's one of those plays as a right fielder sometimes you don't break right away because you figure it's an easy play and he's going to make the out. So by the time Bruce got to it, Granderson had ideas of a triple.
Fourth error of the year for Votto, and the Mets have the winning run at second with one out. Tejada walked his last time up in the ninth. He's 1 for 4 in this game, a double off the center field fence. Duda on deck. And Ruben fouls back the first pitch fastball from Contreras. So Granderson, they haven't been pitching to him the last few at bats. 3-0 pitch. We know he doesn't mind swinging 3-0, and he does. And somehow winds up with a good result.
A lot of these kind of games, Gary, are decided on simple mistakes.
Mets trying to cash it in on the bottom of the 11th. And it's too high to Tejada. 1-1. Carlos Contreras was in 17 games for the Reds last year, so he's still a rookie in his 8th appearance since being called up this season. And he gets ahead on Tejada, 1-2.
Good life on his fastball, a little bit of a changeup, slider. Big swing there by Tejada.
Well, if he gets Tejada out, you have to think that they would walk Duda and pitch to Kadire. Granderson reaching second on Votto's error with one out. And Tejada watches wide, 2-2. So it might come down to Kadire if Tejada can't get it done here. Carlos Contreras, the 6th Cincinnati pitcher of the game. 2-2 coming. Wide, ball 3. Well, if he walks him, then they have to pitch to Duda.
I mean, if you want to pitch around the error, if you're Contreras, you got to go after Tejada right now. Try to retire him, and then you can walk Duda. This inning gets very complicated for him if he walks Tejada.
Third straight at bat. Tejada's run a full count. And Ruben fouls it away. Cutter that time from Contreras. Tejada playing third base in this game. His tenure there may be short-lived. Daniel Murphy might have finished his rehab assignment today and could be with the Mets as early as Tuesday night. Again, the 3-2. Golfed foul. There's every chance that when Murph comes back, Tejada might get a chance to play his natural position.
Shortstop again. Flores the second. For Murph the third.
And Herrera, in that scenario, you would think would go back to AAA.
Yeah, and get some at-bats.
Mets are 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position in this game. Tejada trying to change that. 3-2. Well, that one off Pena. Remember that the Reds have used both their catchers today.
This turns his mask sideways from Pena.
Glancing blow, but a painful one.
Well, it catches his shoulder too. I didn't see that.
It might be more of the pain he's feeling. This will be the 9th pitch of the at-bat to Tejada. And there'll be a 10th.
Boy, nice at-bat by Ruben. Seen a lot of cutters away. That was a fastball down the middle that he missed, but still fouled straight back. Who blinks first against these two?
Again, the 3-2. And one more foul ball.
You love the fight. I mean, this is a pickle for Contreras. He has to retire Tejada. So to do that, you have to keep throwing strikes. And he's thrown some really good pitches on the corner, Tejada, but Tejada's fighting and staying in the at-bat.
His third batter of the inning, and he's already thrown 20 pitches. And he's got Duda looming on deck. The 11th pitch of the at-bat upcoming to Tejada. And time asked for by Pena.
That was one of those instances where you have a rookie on the mound. He shook his catcher off twice, and the catcher was, listen, son, I've got a lot of experience here. This is a big moment. We've got to pitch to this guy. So no shaking off. Let's go with your best pitch. Throw it. Let's take our chances. Good leadership there by Pena, a guy that you and I both like as a catcher.
Well, he's been such a positive influence on every team he's ever been on. Nobody really watching Granderson, so he can build a lead at second with one out. Again, the 3-2. Ball 4. And Duda will come up with 2 men on. Well, that's the second straight plate appearance that Tejada's done that with a runner at second. Made sure that they had to pitch to Duda. Lucas grounded out his last time up in the 9th inning with 2 men on. He's 2 for 5 in this game. Now the shortstop to Jesus right behind Granderson, so he can't get his big lead at second. And Duda, wild swing at a changeup. 0-1. That's been the game plan against Lucas.
It becomes the patience issue, Gary. You know, when you have guys on base, it's an extra inning game. You want to be the hero, so you want to get the hit. But have to lay off those pitches. Easier said than done, of course.
Quickly 0-2.
Another changeup down. Just a steady diet of those. Now, Lucas has had a 2-strike approach a couple of times in the last week. With the defense against him, with De Jesus holding the runner on at second base, there's a big hole between shortstop and Phillips at second base who's playing the pull. So just get the ball in play. See what happens.
Contreras ahead 0-2. And he bounces that one, and Pena somehow knocks it down to keep Granderson at second.
Well, it's supposed to be outside, ended up inside, so fantastic play by Pena.
Pena didn't start this game, came on as a pinch hitter after the resumption in the 7th inning. One and 2 to Duda with Kadire on deck. And Lucas goes down on the changeup, so a steady diet by Contreras. He might have foul tipped that. He's saying that he did.
But they're saying he did not. But the home plate umpire is saying you didn't foul it off. Let's see on the replay. No, he missed that. Good try by Duda, I guess, to try to get one more pitch.
So there are 2 out of the inning, and as was the case in the 9th, it comes down to Kadire. Mets had the winning run at third in the 9th inning, and Kadire popped up. So they'll get another crack at it with Granderson at second and Tejada at first. Michael 1 for 5 in the game and goes after that first pitch fastball and fouls it back. In these RBI spots, it seems Michael was always looking to hit that first pitch.
He is. The last time up, though, he took the first pitch fastball, but 3 of the 4 pitches were fastball. Contreras going right after him, too.
This is high, ball and a strike. Mets are now 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position in this game. Needing just the one big hit that's been so elusive. And Kadire hits it hard. Foul. Just foul. An inch or 2 to the right and the game's over. But Dana DeMuth was right there to make the call.
A little out in front of this changeup. 6 inches foul. And you're right, Gary. Looking for that. That Mets are looking for that hit, but Cuddyer looking for that hit also to jumpstart his. Get that season going with runners in scoring position.
Contreras ahead of him 1-2. And Michael goes after the fastball out of the strike zone, and the inning is over. So the Mets again get that winning run into scoring position, but back-to-back strikeouts of Duda and Cuddyer send the game off to the 12th. Game, which had 6 innings played yesterday and has already had 5 innings played today. There will be a regularly scheduled game. It will appear on SNY. It'll start about a half an hour after the first game. Logan Verrett's gone back to the mound for the 12th. Meanwhile, Brian Price came out. First talked to the home plate umpire Tom Woodring, and now with the crew chief Dana DeMuth. And I have no idea what this is about.
It's almost like he asked permission from the home plate umpire to go talk to the crew chief, Dana DeMuth. And
but what could the subject matter be here?
I have no idea.
Meanwhile, Logan Verrett's standing around after throwing his warm-up pitches for the inning. So maybe it's just some gamesmanship.
And with the year that Price has had, you never know what's going on.
Maybe he left some relievers off his lineup card.
That could happen, you know.
Well, the Mets had a minor league skipper in Kingsport, Luis Rivera, have that happen to him last night. Left some relief pitchers off the lineup card. Had to use 3 position players to get through the game. That's a little embarrassing. So Verrett, who worked a 1-2-3-11, stays on for the 12th. Top of the batting order, Brandon Phillips, who turned 34 since this game began, leads off against Verrett. Phillips had an RBI double back in the 5th of the Reds' only run, and he takes a slider for a strike. Phillips, Votto, and Frazier against Verrett, who was the 6th Met pitcher of the game. Let's use Jerry's Familia for the 9th and 10th. He threw 36 pitches, so you have to think that will affect his availability for the regular game today. Ball and a strike to Phillips. Popped up toward the corner and just beyond the reach of Cuddyer. That short fence provides such an obstacle. He wasn't going to get there anyway. But if you're a little closer and it goes right to the corner of that short fence, that is awfully difficult.
Well, I think you always have to go into a slide, because if you run all the way there, there's no chance really, unless you want to dive into the stands. That's the only play you have.
You know what part of the problem is there aren't seats right there. Yeah. You know, if you try and pull a Josh Donaldson, that's hit out to left center field and hit well, but Lagares seizes over and he grabs it for the first out. you know, Donaldson had the people to cushion him as he made the dive into the stands. But over there in the corner, it's kind of an empty concrete area.
Yeah, it's kind of just a security guy there, and nothing past the ball boy.
It's a few feet back before you get to the seats and where some people are who might cushion your fall.
Well, at home field, you hope so.
Here's Joey Votto, 0 for 3, has walked his last 2 plate appearances. And Barrett comes right after him. Got a good changeup to go with that slider.
That was a good first pitch changeup to Votto. Outstanding. He's starting pitcher.
He's done nothing but impress since he's been called up. And another one for a strike. And it's 0-2.
That's what you get when you have a guy that's been a starting pitcher his whole career. He moves into the bullpen. They have success. Frazier on deck. They've got multiple pitches to go extra innings for you.
Barrett just turned 25 last week. And he gets Votto out in front.
Billy Hatcher with just the left foot tossed out there. First base coach, played against Billy many years. Fantastic hitter.
Hit a very famous 14th inning home run in Game 6 of the LCS in '86 for the Astros.
Always Mr. Clutch.
0-2 from Barrett, and Votto is hit by the pitch.
No, I think he missed him.
Oh,
I think
did
he
it?
missed him. It hit Plawecki,
Okay.
but it looked like Votto tried to lean into it. Watch Votto. Ball goes down. Does he lean in?
No, you're right. It hit Plawecki on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Missed Votto.
Most of the hitters today, they will stand their ground. They're not going to move out of there. He didn't try to move into it, but he didn't move away either.
It was not a Jose Tabata
No,
move.
no.
By the way, Tabata was just designated for assignment by the Pirates.
It's a guy they gave a lot of money to. Kind of a similar contract that they've given to Marte, but Marte's delivered, certainly.
One-two from Barrett, and he misses around the plate. We talk all the time about the Marlins outfield, but what about the Pirates outfield? Marte, McCutchen, and Polanco, they could be unbelievable.
They have a chance, too. I mean, not a chance. They're good already.
And Votto smacks one to right, but Granderson playing deep, and that's where he needed to be for the second out.
It's going to be a strange feeling for these Reds hitters when they cover a ball like that, and they just know that it stays in this ballpark, and it's 10 rows deep in Cincinnati.
Well, they've hit 3 or 4 of them in this game that would have been home runs at Great American Ballpark. This won't go to Cincinnati till late September again this year.
One of the last trips, right?
Got a 4-game series there. Here's Todd Frazier, who's 0 for 5 in this game and 1 for 9 in the series. And he takes a changeup for a strike. Logan Barrett, a Texas kid, born in the Woodlands, went to high school in Corpus Christi, to college in Waco at Baylor.
Frazier's checking his bat to make sure it's not cracked. Good to do that before the at-bat starts, but
I was going to say, usually they only crack after you make contact. Two to Frazier.
Almost looks like Frazier in this series just wants to hit a ball 500 feet. I mean, he can, but the swing has been a little big.
24 home runs this year, 46 extra base hits, tops in the National League. 0-2 from Barrett. Bounce toward the hole. Smothered by Flores, but it trickles behind him, and Frazier has an infield hit.
Well, on this play, Gary, Wilmer Flores dives almost past the ball. He dove and had time to get there, but see how the ball hits his thumb, not in the webbing.
So a 2-out base runner for the Reds, who have their 10th hit of the game, and another chance for Jay Bruce, who hit one to the top of the fence in center field that Lagares pulled back in the 8th. 1 for 5 in this game. So Barrett had retired 5 in a row before that Todd Frazier infield hit. Frazier can steal a base. He's got 8 this year. Reds do a lot of running. It's not just Billy Hamilton. They've got 75 steals, most among National League teams. Barrett throws one by Bruce. Bruce came close to a home run back in the 8th.
Good job by Lagares, just getting back to the wall and then just using his leaping ability to keep that ball in the ballpark. I don't know if it would have been a home run, but it would have been an extra base hit.
Marlon Byrd would be next. You know what this game is starting to feel like? With the high hit totals for both sides and just the one run. Remember that 20-inning game against the Marlins a couple of years ago?
Right.
It's really got that kind of feel.
Where's Sean Markham when you need him?
Yeah. Cued out to shortstop. Flores has got it. He'll go to first and gets the out on Bruce to end the top of the 12th. 2 strong innings for Logan Verrett. Now the Mets will have Flores lead off in the bottom of the 12th. How about Skip Schumacher's defense in the 7th inning?
Well, the first inning back for the Mets. They had a chance with the leadoff hitter Tejada with this great drive. Great catch by Schumacher for the first out. And then Duda hit this ball off the wall. I think he had an automatic double, but with the great throw and the slip by Lucas, he's thrown out at second base. Schumacher, one of the bigger reasons we're still here. Well, we're going to be here all day, but still here in this game.
Well, the Mets get another chance to win it in the bottom of the 12th. Wilmer Flores will lead off. He led off the 8th with an infield hit. He led off the 10th with a ground out. And now leading off in the 12th with Lagares and Plawecki to follow. Pitcher due up 4th in the inning. The Mets still have one player left on their bench. Position player anyway. That's Eric Campbell. Now, Brian Price used Mike Leake as a pinch hitter. Would the Mets use Noah Syndergaard or Jacob deGrom as a pinch hitter?
I think you have to start thinking that way. You also have to start thinking about, if you get deeper into this game, we've talked about the 6-man rotation and innings limits, and but the game is baseball, and sometimes you got to go to one of your starters occasionally, to hit or to pitch.
Well, before Steven Matz was brought up, this was supposed to be John Neese's day to pitch. Neese is now scheduled to pitch Tuesday night against the Cubs, but who knows, maybe he's pressed into surface as a long man in extra innings.
Well, it's a great choice, right? Because then he can make another decision on Tuesday. Who are you going to use?
Well, it's 3-0 to Flores. Carlos Contreras working his 2nd inning of relief. And a letter high strike. Flores already was getting set to take the shin guard off. 3-1. Contreras worked around an error and a walk by striking out Duda and Kadire to get through the 11th. Cost him 29 pitches to get through that inning. 3-1 to Wilmer, and he gets under one. Into shallow left. DeJesus calling. Called off, though, and Schumacher's got it. 1 out. Bobby Parnell, next man up in the Mets bullpen.
Second or third time he's been up already.
Well, here's Lagares, who's gone 0 for 5 today and is now 0 for his last 15, 1 for his last 28. I would say he's overdue.
Yeah.
Juan has seen his batting average shrink to 256. And he takes the breaking ball down for ball 1.
Contreras really hasn't proven he can throw the breaking ball for a strike. Been that good cutter and changeup, his two most important weapons.
One to Lagares with Plawecki on deck. The Reds 1 run and 10 hits. The Mets 1 run and 9 hits. The Mets have left 15 runners on base. And Lagares trying to bunt his way on. He deadens it nicely. Contreras with the throw, not in time. Terrific backspin on that bunt by Lagares, and he has himself a bunt hit.
Crazy. They needed him to bunt earlier in the game. He couldn't get it down, but he gets it down here. I wouldn't say it's a perfect bunt, but he gets a little lucky that it has some backspin. And that really hurt Contreras from making that play. Contreras got to it pretty quickly. Good speed by Lagares. Gets him an infield hit. Bunt base hit.
So the Mets have their 10th hit of the game. And now Plawecki, who had a base hit his last time up, a single that sailed by Frazier into left field. Lagares 5 stolen bases this year. See if the Mets are inclined to try and run him here and get him into scoring position. And Plawecki takes a knee-high strike. Eric Campbell, the last position player available on the Mets bench, is out on deck to bat for the pitcher Verrett. A bunt hit, the first hit against Contreras. He had plenty of hard work to do in the 11th after an error by Votto and an 11-pitch walk to Tejada, but he got the job done.
I'd like to see Lagares get one more step lead. There it goes.
Plawecki pops it up. Phillips calling, called off by DeJesus, and that's the second out.
You know, you'd love to say, you know, what's wrong here, guys, but the pitch to Flores was right down the middle. He popped it up. The pitch to Plawecki split the middle of the plate. He popped it up. Just going through one of those stretches where you can't center the baseball.
It's part of that, trying to hit the ball at the ballpark.
I don't know if it's hitting out of the ballpark, but everyone trying to do more maybe than they can. I don't know. Never had to get a big hit. Had to stop people from getting big hits.
So here's Campbell, who came off the bench Friday night, had a big walk in the Mets rally in that game. 0 for 1 in this series. These have not been easy times for Campbell. 7 hits in his last 65 at bats.
Contreras has got a pretty good move at the first base. I think that's why Lagares is staying pretty close.
One to Campbell. Carlos Contreras trying to complete a second inning of relief. Remember that on Thursday before the Reds came here, they played a 13-inning game in Pittsburgh. They had to use 6 relievers, a total of 7 innings in that game. Campbell chases one outside, 1-2. Friday night, they only got 2 innings out of their bullpen behind Johnny Cueto, but now here they are again in a game where so much is being required of both bullpens. Ball just came out of the Reds bullpen is lying in right field. I don't think anybody's seen it. And now Jay Bruce trying to call time and get everybody's attention, but they still haven't seen it, and now finally they do.
Bruce ran over there and just flipped it into the stands. One hopped it into the stands. Almost was out of position. Get time first before you chase that ball.
One and two to Campbell with Lagares at first. Wouldn't chase that one. 2-2. If Campbell can keep the inning going, Dilson Herrera would be next. These two teams have combined to go 1 for 21 with runners in scoring position. Mets 0 for 13, Reds 1 for 8.
They've left, what, 26 runners on? Something like that.
Mets have left 15. And the Reds have left 12.
27. Oh.
Full count to Campbell. Well, that means an automatic start for Lagares, and that certainly is helpful if Campbell can hit a ball in the gap. And we have a milestone coming up because Carlos Contreras is about to throw the 400th pitch of this game.
Let's see.
Mets are hoping it'll be the last one. Lagares runs. Campbell hits it in the air to right. Bruce back has plenty of room. And we are going to the 13th inning. So now Ronnie has worked as many innings in relief as Keith worked as a starter. Still tied at 1.
After this game, well, Gary Apple and Jim Duquette, now they don't know what they're going to say yet because we're still tied here in this game, but it'll be on SNY, and then the second game will be on SNY with Steven Matz pitching.
Do you think by the time Matz takes the mound, he'll have a year of service time?
He will. He'll have full-fledged dental and medical.
Such unusual circumstances for everybody concerned. You had the fans last night who came to a game, sat in the rain, watched 6 innings, thought they were going to have a concert, didn't get that. Some of them were able to trade their tickets in for seats today. You have players picking up in the middle of a game. You've got relief announcers.
That's right.
And now Bobby Parnell, the latest relief pitcher.
After Familia went 2 innings, Logan Verrett went 2 innings. Now Bobby Parnell is in the ball game. But you know what's interesting, Gary, is that, you know, we talked about before the game, you know, what the lineup would look like for some of these teams. Everything has changed now with this extra inning affair.
Marlon Byrd will lead off for the Reds in the 13th. So the Mets are out of bench players. The Reds have 1 left. Eugenio Suarez still available on their bench. Pitcher due to bat 4th in this inning. And Byrd lays off the first pitch curveball from Parnell, ball 1. Byrd has 2 hits in this game, including a broken bat infield hit his last time up. Well, they're also playing 2 games in Philadelphia today. They got rained out yesterday. Nats lead the Phillies 3-2 in the 8th in the first game. Strasburg started that game for the Nats.
Well, with all the great pitching that the Nationals have gotten, that calls it a strike. It was interesting that Matt Williams, the manager of the Nationals, was not very happy that they banged that game in Philadelphia. He thought that they shouldn't have started it at all.
Right, they played, what, an inning and a half. Well, that was certainly the fear last night, that the Mets would start Harvey and then lose him to a rained-out game. That foul ball hits Plawecki. Where the Mets have used their two catchers in this game. Manel pinch hit earlier.
I've only seen it done a couple of times. Hanging breaking ball here from Parnell, just missed by Bird. Remember playing for Tony La Russa in a game that you really looked like the conditions were going to be awful. He started a relief pitcher so he wouldn't lose his starter.
One and two to Bird with Schumacher and DeJesus to follow. And Marlin takes up and in. Well, Parnell's been having some good results despite the fact that his velocity is clearly diminished.
I think we have to, as even here in the booth, get over. That's just not going to happen. And it's not going to happen this year.
And Bird chasing the breaking ball for strike 3. So Parnell fans the first man he faces. Mets' upcoming schedule is brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Still have one more game to go after this today. Then the Mets have tomorrow off before welcoming in the Cubs for their only visit of the season, starting on Tuesday night. Then the Mets go out west to LA and San Francisco, come back to play Arizona, and then all of a sudden it's the All-Star break. All-Star game in Cincinnati. Reds wearing that patch on their sleeves in commemoration. Skip Schumacher's 1 for 4 and a walk, lined out to third base his last time up with a couple of men on. And he hits this one out to left. Kadyr's right there. So another hard hit ball from Schumacher, but another out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now we've on to DeJesus. DeJesus 0 for 5 in this game. He started the day, 28 years old, with 113 major league at-bats. Might double that by the end of this game. His dad, of course, played 15 years for 7 different teams. A terrific big league shortstop.
He really was. Tough out, tough nose player.
It has got to be awfully hard to be a big leaguer's son trying to live up to his legacy, and even harder when you have the same name.
I think it's harder when you have the same name. I didn't really bother Ken Griffey Jr. at all, but
toward the right side, and that'll sneak through for a base hit for DeJesus. So a 2-out single. I'm thinking of Tony Gwynn Jr. or Pete Rose Jr.
Yeah.
Guys who tried to follow in their father's footsteps.
The difference is, though, is that you're afforded more luxuries as far as being around your dad and maybe being in clubhouses, although Ivan's too young to have done that. Junior, I mean.
Eugenio Suarez, last man on the Cincinnati bench, will get the pinch hitting assignment. And once again, Aroldis Chapman is up, but throwing only lightly, so you have to figure Price is still going to hold him out for a possible save chance and go in a different direction if the Reds don't score. DeJesus at first with 2 out. And Suarez takes it wide for ball 1. Suarez started the first game of this series at shortstop, went 0 for 3. Nate Adcock on the right next to Chapman. Suarez, who used to switch hit, has given that up. Strictly a right-hand batter now. And his presence in the game means that we can further the use of the first name Eugenio, which has been one of our goals in this series.
That's right.
To say Eugenio as many times as we can.
Keith threw the gauntlet down in the first inning, didn't he?
He said Suarez only?
Yeah. No, he went for the name.
Oh. Well, I told him that's where his Spanish roots paid off.
That's right.
See, now if Eugenio had grown up in Bensonhurst, he'd be Gino.
Gino, that's right.
2-1 to Suarez. And Parnell checks in on to Jesus. So the Mets are using their 7th pitcher of this game. And the Reds will go to their 7th pitcher in the bottom of the inning. Both managers are running out of black lines to put through players' names. 2-1 to Suarez. That's a good pitch by Parnell. 2-2. Dialing it up to 93 on the outside black.
Just added just enough to get it past Suarez. That was a great shot we had of Terry Collins. The managers, as it gets later in the game, their heads are just fixated on those scorecards, just figuring out where they're going to go if this game gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
Of course, the interesting part is we've seen a lot of position players pitch. Well, you can't do that anymore once you put a pitcher in the field.
There goes the runner. Pitch up and away. Plawecki's throw. Tagged by Herrera. He got him. Beautiful tag by Dilson Herrera to get to Jesus and end the inning. Plawecki with the strong throw, but to the wrong side of the bag, and Herrera did the rest. Just a great job of bringing that tag over and getting to Jesus and getting Parnell through the top of the 13th.
Still a 1-1 game at Citi Field. Will stay in the game at shortstop, and with the caught stealing, he'll lead off the next inning. And the pitcher Nate Adcock will go in the number 7 spot in the order.
Well, he started the season in Louisville, where he had 11 saves and 16 save opportunities. Was promoted to the big club when they released Jumbo Diaz, and he had a 1-2-3 inning on Friday night against the Mets.
Well, the black pen is out. Let's see who's left. The entire Reds bench, the entire Mets bench gone. You've got Villarreal, the long man, and Chapman, the closer, in the Reds bullpen, and the 2 lefties, Gil Martin and Leathersich, left in the Mets bullpen.
And maybe the Nice, another left-hander.
Maybe. I wonder which pitcher has been told to go put his spikes on. Well, it's been almost 24 hours of intrigue in this game. This game started at 4:10 yesterday afternoon. It's now 3:55 the following day. And Dilson Herrera, for the 3rd straight at bat, will lead off an inning. He led off the 9th, led off the 11th, and now leading off the bottom of the 13th. Now against Nate Adcock, who misses low and away for ball 1. 27-year-old Nate Adcock. Sinker slider guy, who looked impressive the other night. Got Campbell and Duda on ground balls, struck out Kadire. Granderson on deck, and then Tejada. And Herrera takes a strike, 1-1. 2 balls and a strike. Herrera 0 for 4 and a walk in this game, just 2 for his last 25.
I mean, almost, except for Granderson, you're saying that about almost every hitter, aren't you?
Seems that way.
Yeah.
And Dilson pops one up and foul ground. Votto right to the railing, but runs out of room. 2-2. Sean Gilmartin, next man up in the Mets bullpen. After Bobby Parnell worked 13th. I don't know if Parnell's to the point where you'd use him for a second inning.
Looks like maybe not with the fist bump with Robles. I think it's really Bobby's call, isn't it, right now with the manager?
Coming back from Tommy John surgery. Full count to Herrera. Well, the Mets got 2 men on in the 9th, got the winning run to 3rd. They got a base hit in the 10th. They got an error and a walk. Got a runner to second base in the 11th. Got a 1-out hit in the 12th. So far, unable to cash any of that in. 3-2 to Herrera. And he lifts one down the right field side, and that'll go out of play.
That ball down the right field side, Mr. and Mrs. Met put their hands over their head like any damage could be done with a foul ball.
I wonder.
I guess maybe a dent.
How tough is that head? Takes a lot of abuse from some of the kids, you know. I'd be much more worried about a foul ball in the gut if I were Mr. Met. 3-2 from Adcock. And Herrera takes inside, ball 4, and the Mets get the leadoff man on in the 13th. That's the 7th walk. I think the 8th walk given up by Cincinnati pitching.
And you're in a strange circumstance here because this is your best hitter. He's your hottest hitter. He's the only one doing any damage. No bunting situation.
No.
He'll be swinging the bat.
Absolutely not. Curtis, a double, a home run, 2 walks, and last time up he swung at a 3-0 pitch and hit one right underneath Votto for a 2-base error. So he has reached base 5 times in this game. Frazier's playing in at 3rd, but there's no way Granderson could be bunting here. And Curtis takes the pitch low for ball 1. They've been very careful with Curtis these last few at bats. And why not?
He's going to have to go after him here, though, with the runner on first base. Frazier should just back up. You can tell that Granderson's seen the ball so well. He's taken a lot of those pitches that are close for balls.
5 home runs in his last 7 games, including 1 in this game yesterday.
And he pulls one into right field, a base hit. Herrera turns second. He's going to try for 3rd. Bruce with a strong arm, not in time. Curtis Granderson with his 3rd hit of the game, and the Mets have the winning run at 3rd and nobody out.
Well, impressive hitting here by Curtis, who's more in the pull mode, just gets that by Brandon Phillips. What was more impressive about that is that Jay Bruce assumed that Dilson Herrera was not going to go 1st to 3rd, and a little lazy with that throw, and Dilson took advantage of it.
Funny thing is, the Reds were playing straight up on their defense. Normally, teams will shift against Granderson. If they had, Phillips probably would have been in position to catch that ball.
Watch, you got to pause. Once he sees it go through, he decides to take off. That's his decision and his only. Aggressive play.
So now the infield will come in. The outfield will come in. A fly ball could win it for New York. Ruben Tejada 1 for 4 and a pair of walks. Duda on deck. Herrera the winning run at 3rd. And Tejada takes inside for ball 1. The outfield playing only as deep as they can throw home.
Well, with the infield in, if you're Herrera, you got to stay close to the bag. You got to watch line drives. You want to be able to be close enough to get back on a fly ball. Any base hit, of course, you're going to score. So you don't have to take any advantage of it.
Tejada takes a strike. 1-1.
Did you watch Frazier on that play? Standing at 3rd base like the first baseman does, waiting for a pickoff throw from Adcock. making sure Herrera doesn't get down that line. Look at that play.
We've seen that a couple of times this year now. Teams trying to cut down on the contact play. 1-1 to Ruben. He takes low and away. Adcock has a base to work with, but he's got Duda on deck. Leadoff walk to Herrera. That was Adcock's biggest failing in this inning. And then Granderson is just raging hot right now, reaching base for the 5th time on a hit or a walk today. 2-1 coming to Tejada. And Ruben bangs one to short. Underneath Suarez. Holding at third is Herrera. And the bases are loaded. Well, Herrera was holding. And when that ball didn't get too far behind Suarez, he didn't take a chance. And now the bases are loaded with nobody out.
Well, Suarez, who just came in for defense, caught looking at the runner at third base, did not look that ball in, and good backup by Phillips. It's not a bad play by Herrera. Because you got to assume he's going to make that play. That's a big leaguer. He's got to make that play. He didn't. Herrera stayed at third. Not a bad play.
That's a really good play by Herrera, because if he tries to score, Phillips probably throws him out. You certainly don't want to take any chances with nobody out.
Well, you love to see your young players making smart, intelligent decisions.
So Duda gets a chance to end this one.
Maybe going to bring in a 5th infielder, and that'd be Schumacher as the left fielder.
Schumacher has experience as an infielder. He's played a lot of second base. So with the goal here to get the force at home, Schumacher is going to go get his infielder's glove. We've seen more and more teams do this. The Reds will run a 5-man infield. We saw the Cubs try it the other day. They brought Mike Baxter into the infield, and he fielded the ground ball, but then he threw it wildly home, and the Cubs lost the game.
Well, I think the key is here, by bringing in an extra infielder, you can play the shift without getting your left side of the infield out of position. That's the key.
So Schumacher gets the smaller glove. Built for getting it out quickly for the throw. So they'll play Schumacher right near second base.
And that'll put them in a shift against the left-handed hitting Duda.
So now they can have Frazier still holding that bag at third, so that Herrera can't get too big of a jump. Although with a force play at the plate, I would think that would be less necessary. Yeah. 2-man outfield. They've got Bird in left center and Bruce in right center. Schumacher in the middle of the 5-man infield. Bases loaded, nobody out. Duda 2 for 6 in this game. And Pena needs a conversation.
Well, lucky he called time, because Adcock didn't step off very properly. We saw it. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday's game. Scott Kazmir, who did not balk, was called for a balk in yesterday's game. Got to be very careful here. Adcock with a shake of the head.
Saw the Mets lose a game on a walk-off balk in Atlanta by DJ Carrasco a couple of years ago. Nate Adcock, the 7th Cincinnati pitcher, and he's in deep trouble in the bottom of the 13th. And Duda takes the first pitch in the dirt. Pena tracks it down, and Herrera stays at third.
Beautiful play by Pena. Nice patience by Duda, not going after that changeup.
Ball came off Pena's throwing hand before he was able to find it.
If you're Lucas, just you look for something up in the strike zone that you can hit in the air. 2 men in the outfield.
One and 0 to Lucas. And it's on the inside corner. Borderline pitch, 1-1.
Catcher sitting away, had to reach across. Catches that ball in the inside corner. I think it caught plate. It just looks funny because the catcher reaching across his body.
One from Adcock. And Duda grounds one. Votto drops it, and the Mets win the ball game. Joey Votto with his second missed play of the game, and the Mets win it in the bottom of the 13th, 2-1.
Well, almost 24 hours after this game started, the Mets get themselves a win because Cincinnati Reds just gift wrapped it for them into 13th inning.
Well, the Mets struggling so mightily on offense. Use a walk, a single, and a couple of errors to plate the winning run in the bottom of the 13th.
I mean, a simple play for Votto. All you have to do is jump up, catch it, and throw it home. He tried to throw it before he landed. We've talked about how he likes to get rid of that ball quick. It was a good play and great hops to get up there. But he didn't have to rush it home with the forced play.
Herrera able to race home with the winning run. And after 6 innings yesterday and 7 more today, the Mets finally had themselves a victory. It took them nearly 24 hours to get it.
Well, don't forget the intelligent decision by Dilson Herrera at third base on the error by the shortstop. He was able to stay on third, didn't try to score, and scores on the error.
So the Mets have taken the first 2 games of this series by identical scores of 2-1, and they've won 3 straight games in which they have scored just 2 runs. 2-0 on Thursday in Milwaukee, 2-1 Friday night, and now the completion of the suspended game. They win in 13 innings this afternoon by the final of 2-1. Game summary brought to you by Royal Caribbean. The only way to Caribbean is with Royal Caribbean. So the grounds crew getting the field in order for the second game. And there are the total. Should be 3 errors for the Reds. Or was it? Did they not charge an error on that final play?
Oh, come on.
Waiting for the official score. But in any event, the Mets scratch out a run on the bottom of the 13th and get the victory over the Reds 2-1. Final score in 13, the Mets 2 and the Reds 1. Our next picks telecast will be next Sunday, July 5th, when the Mets play the Dodgers. Coverage begins at 3:30. Don't forget the regularly scheduled game, Steven Matz's Major League debut. Coverage begins right now over on SNY. Coming up next on Picks, it's What Went Down. Mets win 2-1 in 13 with another game coming up here at Citi Field. Now for Ron Darling and Steve Gelbs, I'm Gary Cohen. We'll see you over on SNY.